Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Desha Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So had we skipped the session for last two days, last 2 weeks. So devotees must have forgotten about the Thursday session. Sorry, I was not well. I'm still recovering. Had developed throat infection. Okay, so we will try and do something today. So let me share the screen. We completed 15th chapter of 4th canto 2 weeks ago. Today we will try and do the overview of 16th chapter of 4th canto. So please raise your hand if you're in a position to read, so that I will be able to pick you up. If you can just raise your hand, that's fine. Okay, excellent. 2 people raised. So let me share the screen. Let's go with Manjula Mataji. If you can kindly read the first 14 verses, that would be great.
Yes, Prabhu. Praise of King Prathu by professional reciters. The great sage Maitreya continued. When King Prathu thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciters very much. Then again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages. The reciters continued, Dear King, you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and by his causeless mercy you have descended to this earth. Therefore, it is not possible for us to actually glorify your exalted activities. Although you have appeared through the body of King Vena, even great orators and speakers like Lord Brahma and other demigods cannot exactly describe the glorious activities of your lordship. Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. This King Maharaj Prathu is the best among those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in pursuit of religious principles and give those principles all protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. The king alone in his own body will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus, he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the populace to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time, he will also maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. This King Prathu will be as powerful as the sun god, and just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Prathu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, just as sun god evaporates water for 8 months and during the rainy season returns it profusely, this king will also exact taxes from the citizens and return these monies in time of need. This King Prathu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person may trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulations, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he'll be as tolerant as the earth itself. When there is no rainfall and the citizens are in great danger due to the scarcity of water, this royal personality of Godhead will be able to supply rains exactly like the heavenly king Indra. Thus, he will very easily be able to protect the citizens from drought. The king, Prathu Maharaj, by virtue of his affectionate glances and beautiful moon-like face, which is always smiling with great affection for the citizens, will enhance everyone's peaceful life. The reciters continued, no one will be able to understand the policies the king will follow. His activities will also be very confidential, and it will not be possible for anyone to know how he will make every activity successful. His treasury will always remain unknown to everyone. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories and good qualities, and his position will be maintained and covered just as Varuna, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. King Prathu was born of the dead body of King Vena, as fire is produced from Arani wood. Thus King Prathu will always remain just like fire, and his enemies will not be able to approach him. Indeed, he will be unbearable to his enemies, for although staying very near him, they will never be able to approach him, but will have to remain as if far away. No one will be able to overcome the strength of King Prathu. King Prathu will be able to see all internal and external activities of every one of his citizens. Still, no one will be able to know his system of espionage, and he himself will remain neutral regarding all matters of glorification or vilification paid to him. He will be exactly like air, the life force within the body, which is exhibited internally and externally, but is always neutral to all affairs. Since this king will always remain in the path of piety, he will be neutral to both his son and the son of the enemy. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his own son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. Just as the sun god expands his shining rays up to the Arctic region without impedance, the influence of King Prathu will cover all tracts of land up to Arctic region and will remain undisturbed as long as he lives. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Just give me 1 second, I will sort this door. Hare Krishna. So once again, thank you everyone for tuning in today. So just to give a little bit of background to the story that we are continuing to discuss is the story of King Vena. And of course, and Prithu Maharaj. So in the line of Dhruva Maharaj, King Anga appeared. King Anga had no sons, but later he performed a sacrifice. And on the sacrificial altar, a divine personality appeared and gave king some sweet rice, which he gave it to his wife, Sunita. Anga's wife was Sunita. So, and after that, she conceived and gave birth to Vena. Anga was extremely good in character and in his behavior and in his administration. However, his son Vena was very cruel. He used to kill the playmates while playing. So we studied that Sunita, the wife of Anga, was in the lineage of irreligion. Her father was death personified. King Vena acquired the qualities of the irreligion from the mother side. So because he tried to correct his own son, Vena, several times in several ways. However, he did not have any success. Hence, one day, King Anga decided to just leave the home and kingdom. That time he was the ruler, but he decided, he decided actually, initially thought, no son is better than a bad son. But later he decided actually, a bad son is better than a good son. He thought himself, because he's so bad, I've developed so much detachment from the family life. So he decided to leave, and he left the kingdom, not anyone knowing. Because there was no ruler, there was problems in the kingdom. Thieves and rogues were dominating without a ruler. So the sages advised the citizens to find out whereabouts King Anga was, but they couldn't find. And because it was an emergency situation, with the permission of Queen Mother Sunita, they made King Vena. They enthroned Vena. We all know that he was so cruel, and they all so knew. But it was an emergency. They had to. There should be a king. Without the rulers, then there will be problems in the society. But however, upon being enthroned, he was so puffed up, and he considered himself to be the god, and all the worship should be offered to him, not to anyone else. He advised the sages to stop all the ritualistic principles or sacrifices, etc. So then, the sages thought, what should we do now? So they decided to just simply kill King Vena by uttering I-sounding words. just by words, high-sounding words. Kill this Vena, kill this cruel Vena. Yeah, that's it. With words, high-sounding words, they killed Vena because he was so cruel. And because, of course, his dead body was preserved by Queen Mother Sunita in the oil preservative. Again, there was no king. Um, they could see thieves and rogues everywhere. And then they thought, the sages then thought, yeah, we should do something. And then they decided to churn the dead body of King Vena. So they had a mechanism. So we know that King Vena's body was made up of the portion that was coming from King Anga, which is a righteous, very advanced lineage, and also another portion from his wife, that is the irreligion lineage. So by churning, they extracted the bad quality from King Vena's body. It's a dead body. And when they churned, there was a dwarf-like personality came out, whose name was Bahuka, who became the king of Nishadha race. So the evil quality was extracted in the form of Bahuka. So that guy, Bahuka, left and then, started residing in the hills outside the towns and cities and kingdom. So then they churned the body of King Vena again. And they knew that, the blood and, that is coming from the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj is extremely powerful. So they knew that there will be a powerful personality going to come out of the body of King Vena, dead body of King Vena. So when they churned the thighs, there are two personalities appeared simultaneously, male and female. The male was known as Prutu, and the female was known as Archi. They both are incarnations. Prutu was incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and Archi, the female Archi, was a representation or the expansion of Mother Lakshmi. They were born simultaneously, and when they were born, they became adults within a moment. They need not to undergo this naughty training, all that thing, to become adults in due course. So the Prutu literally means one who is very famous, and is empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Empowered, in Sanskrit we call it Shakti Avesh Avatar, means a particular living entity is empowered with one great quality. Here, Prutu was empowered with administrative quality. That's why you see King Prutu as a great ruler, king of all kings. Yeah, just let me just check something. Hare Krishna, sorry about that. Yeah, so he's empowered with that administrative potency of the Lord. That's why he'll be a great ruler, great king. Mm. So, and the sages present there decided to immediately coronate, because there was no king. They were looking for the right personality, and here you go, like Lord Vishnu himself, appeared as Prithu, Shaktavesh avatar. So they decided to coronate the king, hmm, King Prithu. And during his coronation ceremony, all demigods came there. Lord Brahma came, all other demigods. They offered various presents to King Prithu. Hmm. And in that assembly, there was a professional reciters, or professional praisers, you can call, bards, and Suta, Magadha, Vandi in Sanskrit they are called, and uh, they try to glorify King Prithu in front of everyone present there. And King Prithu so said to them that, why do you glorify me now? If I don't demonstrate these qualities, your glorification will go in vain. It will become false glorification. So don't praise me when I demonstrate these good qualities. Don't praise me now, but praise me actually, when I actually develop some good qualities. That too, you should praise me when I am not present, not in front of me. But ideally, you should praise the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If I don't have great qualities, if you're praising me, it's like a criticizing me, actually. So, King Prithu smilingly, with gentle, behavior, he said to the professional, praisers, Sutha, Magadha, Vandi, that, praise me later when I actually manifest these qualities. And that's how the previous chapter ends. And in this chapter, they did not stop praising Prithu. So this chapter is entitled, as you can see, that praise of King Prithu by the professional reciters. They did not stop. So the sages present there advised the professional reciters, praise him, go and um, so yeah, he's kind of how can you say, like, is not exactly Vishnu Tattva, but empowered incarnation. Vishnu Tattva, Vishnu Tattva is direct expansion. Empowered incarnation means a living entity is empowered, empowered by the Lord. So they are not exactly Vishnu Tattvas, but they are called empowered incarnations, just like, we can also say Prabhupada is also empowered. But he's a living entity. Yes, is living entity. Living and all living entities are mortal. Like mortal is body, basically. The soul is immortal anyway. Say Narad is also empowered incarnations. Four Kumaras also empowered incarnations, like that. So in this chapter, they started to glorify upon being advised by the sages present there. So the sages, and so the reciters said that mm, will glorify you. You are an empowered incarnation of the Lord. And so we also have a taste for glorifying your activities. And on top of that, we have been requested by the sages there. Sages are requesting us, so we must glorify you, my Lord. Please excuse. We will continue to glorify. And so they begin this glorification. So in text 4, a beautiful verse was mentioned. So who read this? Yeah, our Manjula Mataji. You can read the translation and purport. This describes the good, basically sum up the qualities of Prithu Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. The King Maharaj Prithu is the best among those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles and give those principles all protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. Purport. The duty of the king or the head of the government is described very nicely in this verse. It is the duty of the government head to see that people strictly follow a religious life. A king should also be strict in chastising the atheists. In other words, an atheist or atheistic or godless government should never be supported by a king or governmental chief. That is the test of a good government. In the name of secular government, the king or the governmental head remains neutral and allows people to engage in all sorts of irreligious activities. In such a state, people cannot be happy despite all economic development. However, in this age of Kali, there are no pious kings. Instead, rogues and thieves are elected to the head of the government. But how can the people be happy without religion and God consciousness? The rogues exact taxes from the citizens for their own sense enjoyment, and in the future, the people will be so much harassed that, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, they will flee from their homes and country and take shelter in the forest. However, in Kali Yuga, democratic governments can be captured by Krishna conscious people. If this can be done, the general populace can be indeed very happy. Thank you.
So the main point here. So as a king, he follows the religious principles. He protects the religious principles, and he chastises irreligious people. Very important. And you can see that, however economically we are developed now, but are we happier than our ancestors? I'm not sure. Prabhupada writes in this purport, because they don't have Krishna consciousness. They are mainly on the bodily platform, so they're more miserable than ever. So ideally, the leader should be religious, promote religiosity. So it is said, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. The subjects follows the leader. So at home also, we should lead a very good example. We have a responsibility at home to lead our family members. So we have to set a very good example. If we go to temple, if we read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and they will also try and follow that. So King Prithu was such a good king that, the people were so happy in those days. And it is said he was compared to like different demigods, King Prutu, by these professional reciters, uh, because he will be so religious, and because of his religiosity, even the people of upper planets will become happy. mm. And so King Prutu, as compared to was compared to different demigods. mm. So he was compared to Surya, sun. What does the sun do? Sun sitting from sitting far away, evaporates the water from oceans, and it distributes that same water to everyone equally. So similarly, King Prutu extracts the taxes and distributes to the citizens in need of time, just like sun, 8 months it evaporates the water during the 4 months rainy season. Yeah, it will give back. So then he was compared to Mother Earth. The quality of Mother Earth was tolerance. Hmm. Out of his causeless mercy, um, be forgetful and forgiving, even to persons who trample over his head. Innocently, if someone makes a mistakes and even tramples over his head, King Prutu would, would ready to forget and forgive. Like Indra, supply rain when there is no rainfall and protect the citizens. Like moon, uh, pleases the world with his cooling rays. Hmm? He was so affectionate, and he also, with his glances and charming smiles, King Prutu will please everyone. As Varuna, Varuna means the ocean god. He, he he hides valuables like all the jewels and other things. He hides it. Similarly, King Prutu keep his policies, activities, methods of success, and treasury confidential. It is very important sometimes to keep these things confidential. Hmm. He is glorious as Vishnu, and is compared to Agni, fire. Hmm. Although he, he appeared from the dead body of King Vena, hmm, Arani, from wood fire comes, but wood is nothing, very simple. But if you rub the Arani wood, then the fire comes. The fire is hidden in the wood. Um, so he is compared to Agni, or fire. Like fire, and is very powerful and unconquerable to his enemies. Like wind, Vayu is all pervading. He knows the external and internal um, activities of every living being and all, yeah, species. And he follows the dharma or religion, uh, um, and is very impartial. It is said, if his own son makes mistakes, he is ready to punish. On the other hand, if a son of his enemy makes an enemy is good, he will accept that. That's how he's impartial. So these are various qualities functioning as various demigods. He was compared to various demigods. let's move forward, and in the next 5-6 verses, we will see personal qualities of King Prithu. So, who would like to read next? Anupama Raji? Yeah. Who was that? Sorry.
There were two of us. It was me and somebody else.
Okay. Okay, Meena Mataji, you can read.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Let me, yes,
Yeah.
You have to bear with me. My throat is still giving me a little issue. From 15 to 19, this is a short section.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Can you see?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can. Thank you. So text 15. This king will please everyone by his practical activities, and all of his citizens will remain very satisfied. Because of this, the citizens will take great satisfaction in accepting him as their ruling king. Text 16. The king will be firmly determined and always situated in truth. He will be a lover of the Brahminical culture and will render all service to old men and give shelter to all surrendered souls. Giving respect to all, he will always be merciful to the poor and innocent. Text 17. The king will respect all women if they were as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees, who always preach the glories of the Lord. Text 18. The king will consider all embodied living entities as dear as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasures of his friends. He will intimately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand to all impious persons. Text 19. This king is the master of the three worlds, and he is directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is without change, and he is an incarnation of the Supreme known as a
Shaktya-vesha Avatara.
Shaktya-vesha avatar. Being a liberated soul and completely learned, he sees all material varieties as meaningless because their basic principle is nescience. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Short section, this one. Okay. So here, the professional reciters touch base on the personal qualities. So if we see some of them, if we can, look into, is fixed in his vow, Drudavrataha. So we should also be determined to follow our vows. And our vows in Krishna consciousness are simple. Follow 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit relationship, no intoxication, and chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra daily on beads. And be sincere basically. So this is it, Prabhupada said. So this is our vow. And we should also try and follow this vow. So is Drudavrata, fixed in his vow and true to his promise, and very respectful to Brahmanas. So very good quality. So we should treat other devotees, other living entities, every living entity we should treat with respect. And it is mentioned that he is going to render service to the elders. So it is very good quality. I was listening to someone this morning. So he was mentioning in India, they have a system now to put children in boarding school as soon as they turn five. They put them in these boarding schools. And so he was telling, this person was mentioning in his story or in his lecture. So you put the children in the boarding school when they become 5, and when they are 30, they are putting you in the old age homes. And you are not showing any love, and they are not neither reciprocating. But anyway, so we should look after elderly. It's very important. We also become old one day. Don't think that because everything is so good now, and don't think that we never become old. That is illusion. We must care for our seniors and elders. Very important aspect. If we don't do that, if we are disrespectful, then there is karma waiting for us. It's in due course. We will also go through that. So clearly mentioned that he renders service to elders, old people. And he was protector of all living beings, kind to the suffering. And the most important one that I wanted to probably read out is text 17. Bhuneshwari Radha Mataji, you can read the translation and purport of this verse.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Translation. The king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees who always preach the glories of the Lord. Purport. A learned man treats all women except his wife as his mother, looks on others' property as garbage in the street, and treats others as he would treat his own self. These are the symptoms of a learned person as described by Chanakya Pandit. This should be the standard for education. Education does not mean having academic degrees only. One should execute what he has learned in his personal life. These learned characteristics were verily manifest in the life of King Prithu. Although he was the king, he treated himself as a servant of the Lord's devotees. According to Vedic etiquette, if a devotee came to a king's palace, the king would immediately offer his own seat to him. The word Brahmavadinam is very significant. Brahmavadi refers to the devotees of the Lord. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are different terms for the Supreme Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is Lord Krishna. This is accepted in Bhagavad Gita 10.12 by Arjuna. Param Brahma Param Dhamma. Thus, the word Brahmavadi Nama refers to the devotee of the Lord. The state should always serve the devotee of the Lord, and the ideal state should conduct itself according to the instructions of the devotee. Because King Prithu followed this principle, he is highly praised. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. See. So regarding Prithu, how would he treat all women? So king, so it is mentioned, Matru Bhaktihi Parastrishu. Parastrishu means other women. He treat other women as respectable as his mother. Matru Bhaktihi. Parastrishu. And Patnyam Artha Eva Manaha. Patnyam, his wife, he treat his wife off of his own body. And then Prajasi Pitruvata Snigdaha. Prajasu means to the public, the people in general, citizen, like a father. Pitruvat. And Snigdha means very loving and affectionate. And at the same time, Kinkaro, he'll be serpent, Brahmavadinam, for devotees. Although he was a great, great king, and is an empowered incarnation of the Lord, he acts as servant of the devotees. So Prabhupada loves this quotation by Chanakya Pandit. You know Chanakya Pandit, Prabhupada often quotes some verses from Chanakya Niti. And, he also says similar verse, with regards, he also mentions about a learned, he described who is a learned person, Pandita. So according to Chanakya, so a learned person, a Pandita, is one who treats other women as his mother and looks on others' property as a garbage or a stone, a pebble in the street. That means he doesn't touch. And treats others as he would treat his own self. These are the symptoms of a learned person. Prabhupada mentions here that education should ideally, when we go to university and educate, we call ourselves learned. Some of these qualities should manifest in us. That is learning. So we have to question what kind of qualities the people are acquiring after studying, after undergoing so many years of education, modern education. What kind of qualities are they bringing up? Prabhupada highlights that another point about Kinkaro Brahmavadinam. So he acts as a servant. Although he was a great king, he acts as a servant. This position of servant is very much appreciated in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, actually, I am not a Brahman, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya, I am not a Shudra, I am not a Brahmachari, I am not a Grihastha, not a Vanaprastha, not a Sannyasi. I do not belong to any caste. My eternal identity is that I am the servant of Master of Gopis. Who is the Master of Gopis? Krishna. Gopi Bharatu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasanudas. He says that I'm simply servant. Okay. So let's move on to the last section. So let's see who would like to read. Anupama Radhika Mataji, raise your hand. You want us to read?
Yeah. Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So the last section from text 20 till the end of the chapter, please.
Okay, thank you Prabhuji. Text 20. When the king travels all over the world, other kings as well as the demigods will offer him all kinds of presentations. The queens will also consider him the original king who carries in his hands emblems of club and disc and will sing of his fame, for he will be reputable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This king, this protector of the citizens, is an extraordinary king and is equal to the Prajapati demigods. For the living facility of all citizens, he will milk the earth, which is like a cow. Not only that, but he will level the surface of the earth with the pointed ends of his bow, breaking all the hills, exactly as King Indra, the heavenly king, breaks mountains with his powerful thunderbolt. When the lion travels in the forest with his tail turned upward, all million animals hide themselves. Similarly, when King Prithu will travel over his kingdom and vibrate the string of his bow, which is made of the horns of goats and bulls and is irresistible in battle, all demoniac rogues and thieves will hide themselves in all directions. At the source of the river Saraswati, this king will perform 100 sacrifices known as Ashwamedha. In the course of the last sacrifice, the heavenly Indra, King Indra, will steal the sacrificial horse. This King Prithu will meet Sanat Kumara, one of the 4 Kumaras, in the garden of his palace compound. The king will worship him with devotion and will be fortunate to receive instructions by which one can enjoy transcendental bliss. In this way, when the chivalrous activities of King Prithu come to be known to the people in general, King Prithu will always hear about himself and his uniquely powerful activities. No one will be able to disobey the orders of Prithu Maharaj. After conquering the world, he will completely eradicate the threefold miseries of the citizens. Then he will be recognized all over the world. At that time, both the Suras and the Asuras will undoubtedly glorify his magnanimous activities. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So here in this short section, prediction of Prithu Maharaj's future activities were given. So they mentioned that King Prithu will travel all over, and all the kings and demigods will offer him presentations, and their wives will glorify him. They all consider him as Adi Raja. He is the original king. As I mentioned, he is empowered with administrative power. So he'll be the best among the kings. And they also predict that he will, milk the earth as a cow, and extract so many valuables by milking the earth. Just as one milks the cow, we get the essence, that is milk. So by extracting the Mother Earth, he will get all the valuables, and he will level up the Earth planet, with his bow. He will kind of level up, level the surface of Earth with his bow, breaking all the hills like Indra. And the thieves will be terrified of him, and he will also perform sacrifices, and at the time of performing 100 sacrifice, King Indra will come and steal his horse. That way he will not be able to complete the 100th horse sacrifice. And he will also meet one of the Kumaras called Sanat Kumara. There are 4 Kumaras. They were the first born beings in this day of Brahma, 4 Kumaras. So he will meet Sanat Kumara, exalted devotee, offer respects to him and take instructions from Sanat Kumara, and his fame will be widespread, and everyone in the world will glorify. Both demons and demigods will glorify King Prithu. So that's how this chapter ends. So we'll stop there. So in this chapter, although King Prithu advised not to glorify him, but being instructed by the sages, and scholars present there, the professional reciters, and they offered prayers and they glorified, they praised King Prithu initially, and they compared King Prithu to various demigods, like sun, like moon, like Indra, like Vishnu, like wind, like fire, like that. And then they talked about the personal good qualities, how is equal to everyone, and how he renders service to elderly, and he is fixed in his vows. And then how he treats other women and his own wife and all the living beings as father, and with loving, and offers love to his subjects, and is he acts as a servant of the devotees of the Lord. And then they made various predictions how he's going to milk the earth as a cow and extract all valuables and level the surface of earth, and also performs sacrifices. And then he will also meet up he will also get the association of Sanat Kumara and take instructions from him. So that's how this chapter ends. Hare Krishna. Any comments, any questions? Okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyashta kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namah.
Gandhara
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare
Everyone.
Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.